Welcome back, everyone, to episode 7 of the They Fly Now Show podcast. Today, we will be talking about the High Republic Wave 1 and Wave 2 with some extremely special guests. We thank you both for joining us. And just to kind of get us rolling, can you guys just tell us who you are, where can we find you, and then how do you view the Force? And that goes out to the chat too. How do you guys view the Force? I know it's kind of a vague question, but just kind of get your brains, I guess, working. Element, do you want to go first?
Sure. First and foremost, thank you for having me. I love talking about Star Wars, so whenever I have the opportunity to jump on with different people, I'm down for that all the time. I'm Element7 on TikTok _Element7 on YouTube Element7 or youtube.com/Element7s. You can catch our Dyad in the Force podcast every Saturday at 5 p.m. That is with Darth Chaco, also on TikTok, Darth Chaco, and we cover all current events, time-sensitive news, and we just recently had our final trivia rush where Sawyer placed second
on accident.
not really, but yeah, so we do have guests occasionally on Diet in the Force, so check us out there. How I view the Force, I have described it before to, I think, High Ground, or maybe in one of my episodes of Dyad, but being someone who has spent a lot of time as a designer and then subsequently as a game designer, I feel like it would be adequate, or it would be sufficient to say I would view things in like quads or geometric shapes, and, you know, using the Force like with telekinetics and moving things around would be analogous to seeing like the gizmo that you see in 3D programs where you see the XYZ, and then I would be like force pushing. I would be pushing their Z axis out, you know, and I would just see everything as like a game engine, basically.
Interesting.
Okay, I don't think I've ever heard anything even close to that. That's really interesting. And Sawyer?
Yeah, I'm Sawyer, or Sawyerism on TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. I am maybe a Star Wars lore master, at least in the Old Republic, and I'm also Element7's apprentice. So, yeah. I know. I don't know. That's a weird question. Like, I feel unprepared to answer that question. I don't know. Like, I guess
Darkness.
Yes. I just came off a podcast where I'm playing this character that's like killing everybody, so maybe that's a good answer.
It's just pitch black all the time.
Hold on, you were on a podcast killing everyone?
Yeah, I'm on that. Well, I'm on this, like, it's like a Dungeons and Dragons show, literally. And my character is just killing everybody. It's awesome.
Oh my god, that's great.
That would be an interesting way to view the Force if it was pitch black and then like your enemies like were like, you know, shiny little beacons that you're like, no, the darkness must persist.
Murder hobo them. Boosh.
Yeah.
And shout out to some people in the chat just real quick. Nerd Connor says he views the Force like a song, just like Avar Chris. What's up, Kieran? And what's up, Aiden? And I think let's just dive right into it, because I know Element has to leave kind of, or not soon, but
I gotta
like
go now.
Hour and a half. Right? Yeah, right now. That's the Element.
Douche.
Actually, now that you mention it, yeah.
You have got some homework to catch up on. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
But so we're just gonna dive right into it and into the High Republic, because there's a lot to cover, and especially because they just kind of throw us right into some action, and we're getting exposed to this entirely new order, basically, um, and Jedi's ways of thinking compared to Jedi in the prequels are just a lot different. So we're just again to just I guess this would be a little more of an introduction question, kind of building off of what we just talked about, how you view the Force. What are your guys' thoughts on the way that the Jedi view the Force during the High Republic? Because the way that they view it is a lot different than the way that I would say that the prequels kind of view the Force. So, like, what are you guys' thoughts on that? And do you kind of think that's better or worse than how the Jedi and the prequels view the Force? Sawyer, if you want to go first, just kind of what are your thoughts on how the Jedi view,
like in terms of like in the High Republic versus the
yeah,
prequels? Is that what your question is?
Yeah, just in general, just kind of talking about how they view the Force.
I mean, it's kind of an interesting question because, like, if you want to tie it back to what like the question you posed to us, obviously we learn in the High Republic that Jedi see the Force like a song, like an ocean, like a fire, and I think that persists through the prequel era. I think we just don't hear about it, but I definitely think that like that perception of the Force, even with dark side users, we haven't really seen into that or had it described like that before. But I do think every Force user probably has a different way of feeling and experiencing the Force in that respect. But if we're talking like using it, like, is it a tool? Is it this? Is it that? I think the High Republic Jedi definitely understand it more as a tool of light, like a guiding force, not so much I feel like the High Republic Jedi trust more in like the natural Force than the prequel Jedi do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see them making a lot of decisions that are, not necessarily the best, but they're not driven by anything else but the Force. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like the Force is telling me to do this. Like Elzar, the Force is telling me I need to go to this planet, and that's going to solve all my problems. Obviously, that's not what happens, but stuff like that. Whereas the prequel Jedi are very much like, the Force will help us carry out the Republic's wishes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of times that it doesn't make tactical sense for what the Jedi are doing, and they're just doing it solely because it is following the Force. An element. What are your thoughts?
Well, just like Sawyer said, it's interesting, or it's important to make that distinction between the two types of Jedi, right? I mean, in the prequels, they're very much embroiled in a war, embroiled in a political position where they, these views of the Force and their relationship to the Force is hardly, pertinent to the story. So when we're watching the prequels, it really isn't important to know how they view the Force, right? And primarily because, the crux of the entire prequel trilogy is that they are, in fact, clouded by the dark side. So, all throughout the prequels, it even if we knew how they viewed the Force, a lot of it would have been skewed in a way that isn't really pure in comparison to the High Republic, because the High Republic kind of drops us into a period where, right in the middle of the Jedi, like the height of the Jedi, where their thoughts on the Force, their relationship with the Force is more profound than anything that's happening around them. I mean, we're dropped into the Great Disaster simply because we're dropped in the middle of the Jedi era, right? So we're not like going back 25,000 to like the dawn of the Jedi. We're going back in the middle of history. So it makes sense for them to plop us down right smack dab in the middle of the Great Disaster, but also to kind of establish the difference between how the Jedi carry themselves in the High Republic versus how they are carrying themselves and acting in the prequels, where they are just in a situation where it's not important what their relationship to the Force is. There's a lot happening around them that they have to consider, and their relationship to the Force is the last thing on their priority. Anakin is being dumb.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And like Malik in the chat says, we also appreciate how the High Republic Jedi have counselors and make them abundantly available after traumatic events. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Therapy is a thing. I mean,
You don't have therapy.
You'll run into a lot of people who have like religious trauma that they associate with the Jedi Order. This is something that we talk about a lot when it comes to discourse around, Jedi at fault for repressing feelings or kidnapping children, but they don't do. And it's the same with psychological things where people think that the Jedi teach repression, and they're just like going around to kids being like, you can't feel a thing. But they had therapy, they had grievance periods, they had mourning periods for like if you lost a master, they literally sent away Padawans to be like, go to your room, process this. Whenever you're ready, come back and make a choice. Like, do you want to continue or do you want to do something else? And I think it's important to make that kind of distinction.
Yeah, especially after grief, because they'll not to dive too much into it, but whenever Bell loses Loden, he's
spoiler alert.
Yes, spoiler. If you haven't read it, yeah.
I already put a spoiler warning at the top.
Me still having 30 pages left.
Ooh.
Still?
Yeah.
Still?
Spoiler.
Oh dear.
Hey, I was living in hell. We've talked about this.
No, but did you just okay, we're just gonna move on?
Y'all, I had a bad summer. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, when this podcast is done, when you find the time, just read the 30 pages.
I will.
But whenever Bell loses Loden, he's told that yes, you're going to be sad, but you just have to learn to deal with it. And I don't know, I feel like his time of they're telling him to grieve, but just to not let it completely overtake him, which I think would probably be the way to go. And giving those people time to reflect on what just happened is definitely, I think, what kind of makes the High Republic Jedi special.
And it's not a new thing with the High Republic either. Like, if you watch Rebels as well, when Ezra's like, "You are afraid?" and Yoda's like, "Yes, I was." And he says, "Lifelong is the challenge to not bend fear into anger and then lead to the dark side." So everybody feels these feelings. It's not like it's like the end of the world when you do feel them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is an aspect I feel like the Jedi kind of differ from, is because we assume the prequel era Jedi are again this, people have these assumptions where they're just stoic and kind of numb to everything, to the galaxy at wide. So I love how the High Republic is just diving into this deeper side of the galaxy. And you guys already touched on, the way the Jedi view the Force are very much different than how it is in the prequel era, because when we first get introduced to the Force, it's very much the midichlorians, and we really don't get to dive into that because there was a lot just going on in that era, like you guys touched upon. So I find that extremely interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was there a question in there?
No.
Yeah. So I was just kind of explaining that, in general. So obviously we have the whole Great Disaster and that whole period of time, and we have that climatic event, and we have Avar and the entire Jedi on the city of Hetzel basically helping out Avar with the Great Disaster. So I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on the Jedi coming together in unison to help Avar with the Great Disaster? We'll start with Element this time, since we started with Sawyer last time.
Oh, I've been talking way too much, so I'll just make my my thoughts quick and concise. I think it was incredible. I mean, first and foremost, they reintroduced the EU concept of battle meditation. Now, it's not like Bastilas or Satils where they do the meditation and then like the entire army's like, we'll win, and then they win. It's one where it requires Avar to be a linchpin and everyone to connect to her, so she's kind of like a router to find like an analog to it, and everyone connects to her, and then like it enables everyone's strengths to be collective in a way where it is more cohesive. So if you had like 5 Jedi standing on Hetzel trying to move the Tabana gas canister individually, I'd argue you wouldn't be able to do anything. But it is a measure of Avar Chris's skill and ability, and just a little teaser for my video that's coming out, the top 5 most powerful Jedi in canon history. It is substantial. It is a substantial skill that she does, and she reaches as far out as Yoda, who in the book they say like he's like across the galaxy, but she reaches him, and then Yoda's like, "Oh, energy you need, okay," and then he does it. So it is very significant, and I thought that was an amazing event.
Yeah.
Sawyer.
No, I mean, that's kind of how I
Sorry,
felt too.
Hereth.
I mean, I read Light of the Jedi coming right off of my like discovery of KOTOR, so I was like, hell yeah, battle meditation. But no, just like the entire like the first part of that book is just so incredible, and we see the Force used in ways that we've never seen it used before. And I think it was just for me to see Jedi working together that way, like, and how it was written. It just like, I don't know. I'm one of those people who's like so anti prequel Jedi. Like they just put a bad taste in my mouth. So like it was so refreshing to have that happen. And you'll hear me telling people all the time, like, you need to read this. You'll like the Jedi. But I mean, yeah, I think it's really cool. But yeah. And I mean, yeah, just like I think that we learned from the High Republic so much more about the Force than we had access to before, and so just anything we learned from that, any of the new abilities we see, or the way that Jedi are able to work together, is just refreshing and really fascinating to learn.
Yeah, especially on that scale too.
Yeah.
We haven't really
It was
seen
also
anything on that
it
scale.
also served to kind of like establish the stakes, right? Because even though they were coming together to accomplish this great feat, people were dying.
Yeah.
And it was the first time in like Star Wars where you would meet people and then they'd be like, she died, and where he died, and you're like, what the hell? I just learned their name. So yeah, it was a big shift for Star Wars storytelling for sure.
Yeah, because I feel like the reason why I like Light of the Jedi so much is it right out of the gate it establishes the stakes of this era. It's like we're not pulling our punches. We're gonna go hardcore. It may be a peaceful time in the galaxy, but there's still battles. There's still events that happen. So I love that like great disaster opening because it just quickly establishes that type of stakes.
Oh, my favorite part of that part is the first time Avar comes out on the radio. That was like, oh man, this is such an intense moment. The suspense and the stakes are high, and then this is when I was reading the first 8 excerpt that they released on StarWars.com. I read the sentence that says, "This is Jedi Master Avar Chris. We're here to help." And I got goosebumps just reciting that sentence. It's incredible.
She's like meditating, I think, right? That's the first time we see Avar. She's meditating.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the way they describe it is just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Yeah. Obviously.
Shout out to
Sorry.
let's just shout out to Brian. Shout out to Brian, Mr. B.
Brian with the bread.
Go back here.
No, you're good. So obviously after the Great Disaster, we have like this like middle section of the book, which is just, I call like the transition period of like where we're building on these character development. There's still events going on, but we're building this like our like foundational like connection with the Jedi, and we're setting up the Nile, and we get our introduction to Marchion Ro. So I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on Marchion Ro and how he starts off in this book? I'll go to Elements. Actually, I'll go to Sawyer first.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was not crazy about the Nile at all. I've said that before. I mean, when I first, reading that second section, I was just like, oh, okay, like, these guys are super annoying. I'm not really feeling it. They're not really that big of a threat. And then, by the end of that book, Marchion's like, uh-oh, no, I mean business. I'm going to mess up these Jedi real bad, and I have a lot of tools up my sleeve. So that kind of hit me out of nowhere. And then, by the end of the book, I was like, oh, okay. This man is one of the deadliest Star Wars villains in canon. And that was definitely carried through in Rising Storm because, from the get-go, because of what he does to Loden and the things that happen in the third part of Light of the Jedi, when Rising Storm opens with, I can't remember the guy's name that he was with, the bird person, but...
what was it?
What is it?
Did it say started with a D?
Yeah, it started with D.
Udi Dis.
Dis, yes.
Yeah, this.
Right. Like, immediately I was like, oh, something is happening here that's going to be so terrible, but we don't know what it is yet. So, like, I mean, I think very rarely does Star Wars, like, make me like, Light of the Jedi did it with the Great Disaster, and after the end of that book, anything Marchion Ro does gives me the chills because
Yes,
he's bad news, and I really, really appreciate that because yes, I love Valkorion, but he doesn't do that for me except for one time,
Yeah.
We have a lot of villains in Star Wars that are like big bad, but it's also like everyone knows what they're capable of, and like it's just kind of a known fact that they're bad, and like to have a character that you really cannot predict what he's gonna do, and when he does it, it shocks you every time. Like Star Wars needs more villains like that. I love Marchion Ro.
Yeah, I would agree.
You can it seems like you can just push over Marchion at the beginning of the book. You're like, oh, he's really not that big and bad, and these Tempest Runners could easily just take over the Nile if they wanted to at any point in time, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
An Element, if you have anything to touch on?
Yeah, I'm going to be that guy. Marchion Ro is an amazing
No.
villain. Y'all can call him Marchion. I don't, it's your prerogative. I will canonically call him what Soul calls him. But besides that, what Sawyer said about just like the complete turnaround in terms of the introduction of Marchion and how his character is portrayed and delivered to us in the first half lent to a lot of how I felt about him, during the climax of the book and then going forward. I mean, she makes Sawyer makes the example of Valkorion. Like Valkorion is like this magnanimous powerhouse that like you fear what he will do, but then Marchion is like the villain that you don't know what he's capable of, and you don't know how far he's planned things out. Valkorion will just do it like outwardly. And Marchion will, plan things and be nefarious about it, and you just don't know when he's going to come around the corner and kind of punch you in the face. But I loved that, and especially like that moment when you're reading Light of the Jedi, and this was the very moment I knew that Marchion was going to be an amazing villain when he has Loden in custody, and he says, "Doesn't my voice sound familiar?" and he reveals that he was the one that called the Jedi on Elfrona to save the Bly family. And you're like, hold on. First of all, he's like making all of these like strategic moves to trick Cassiv to attack Ariadu, which would bring the full might of the Ariadu back onto him. And then he's planning things against his Tempest runners. He's got redundancies in place. He's planning the Jedi to save certain people so that he can kidnap Loden. Just for all of the weaknesses and flaws that is Markion, with like, he's not the strongest fighter and he's not the smartest person, but he is the most calculated. And seeing that he had planned so far ahead to achieve his goals and to keep like much stronger people in line, like the Tempest Runners and Lorna and Panetta, is someone that you have to fear. And I loved the twist from Markion, and I think he's gonna go on to be probably, if not above Palpatine, probably the most ruthless and menacing villain for the Jedi in this era.
Yeah, it's just I remember, again, the scene that always sticks out in my mind when it comes to Marchion Ro is it's the little like scene like where you think it's absolutely nothing and he's just swinging around the lightsaber and like you're like, okay, this is just gonna probably just be a filler scene, nothing's really gonna go on, and he kills like the father like right next to Loden, and you're just like, oh god. That's the moment you're like, well, Marchion means business. And he's like, I didn't need them.
It's like, oh, this guy?
You're just like,
And then there's the heir of his family history, right? That we don't know. And it was further elaborated in The Rising Storm, but we still don't know the specifics of it. And just like Markion's history with the Jedi and knowing how to fight against mind tricks, and shout out to Malik in the chat with that quote: "You don't cage a Jedi with bars, you cage them with pain," and that's just, it just goes to show how much Markion knows and how he approaches his ultimate enemy. I'm guessing the Jedi are his ultimate enemy, and his family has a history with them as a whole.
Yeah, and he gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, keep going. I just lost my train of thought.
You're good. Which is, again, I know in January we're getting that Marchion Ro origin comic, which I'm very interested to see, like, even further back before, like, what his history is and, like, what kind of mentally drives him and that kind of stuff. Because the more I learn about him, the more fascinating I believe he just becomes. So, kind of fasting forward through that, we jump a little bit forward to the same era, but the same different type of subplot. We have Bell and Loden investigating like this disturbance with the family, and obviously we open up with the entire book. We're learning about how Loden trains. So I gotta ask, what do you think of Bell's training with Loden? And yeah, I'll go to Sawyer.
What about it?
Just like how does it differ from the era, from the prequels and that kind of stuff, and going forward, and like from even other Star Wars media we've seen in the past.
Sorry, my roommates are
you're good.
life.
No, you're good.
Honestly, I mean, that storyline was probably my favorite part of Light of the Jedi. I loved seeing that dynamic. Agreed. And that whole, just again, a refreshing take on how the Jedi operated, especially in the new era. And I hate to say it, but it was nice to see like a detailed relationship of master and apprentice with a master who was actually qualified to train his Padawan. I mean, I haven't read Master and Apprentice, so I don't know if that is also there with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. But, you know, I feel like I remember describing this on Dyad when we originally did the show, but like, just the trust and the, you know, the relationship between Loden and Bell, and it's just so much, you know, I don't want to say stronger. It was different than Obi-Wan and Anakin, but it was really nice to see Loden, you know, all of his advice, like Bell really took to heart, and he thought about it like constantly. And yeah, he had his moments where he was like, I can't do this, but it was never like, no, I'm not gonna do this, you know, like Anakin. And so again, just having that, you know, it's almost like the things that happen in Light of the Jedi mirror what happens in the prequel trilogy, but like on the opposite side of the spectrum, where it's like, oh, this is what it could have been if everything was done according to the book, or what, you know, quote unquote. So I mean, yeah, and I just love their relationship, and it's very sad that it's over, but but
Yeah.
watching Bell develop into a Jedi Knight, I don't know if that's gonna last very long anymore.
Yeah.
But like watching that, you know, like it was refreshing. Again, all of that book is just woo. But yeah, I don't know, it's great.
An element.
Yeah, I think the main difference between the training that Bell and Loden, you know, undergo versus the prequels is very practical in nature. You know, and we kind of have to set the stage for why it is the case. Like if we read Jedi Lost or Master and Apprentice, like we can see the crumblings of the Jedi Order. Like the outposts are largely gone. There's like maybe like, I don't know, I'm going to be hyperbolic. Maybe there's like 2 or 3 left. I don't know the exact number, but like from there into the prequel era, if it seems like the concentration of Jedi is relegated to Coruscant, and then maybe a few outer region outposts here and there, versus like High Republic, there's just an entire system full of Jedi. There's outposts everywhere, and so you can imagine that given the concentration of Jedi in the prequels, most of their training is going to be in the creche, in the classrooms with Yoda, with a whole bunch of younglings, and then they have the gathering with just a few initiates going to build their lightsabers. Versus all of this stuff happening across the galaxy in the High Republic, where you have different outposts for different parts of the galaxy, and that means their training is going to be vastly different to another outpost, or even to Coruscant's training. And so I liked that Loden's training was practical. He was like, listen, this is how we stop ourselves from falling. And then it pushes him off of a cliff. Now figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I really like how he handles Bell falling. And then finally, like when it really counts, when he has the little girl in his arms, he finally
Yeah.
falls the correct way. I think it's just beautiful how they do that.
That was the payoff from having such practical training, right? Instead of kind of like, okay, let's practice you levitating off the ground and stopping yourself from falling or slowing like a 5-foot drop. All of the times that he was trained to do this, he was saved, of course, but it was under duress. It was under the fact that he was in free fall, and he could have died. So when that moment happened, it all came down to protecting that girl. And so it's very light side of him. I love Bell.
Yeah, and his mindset during that fall, he's like, okay, because like I think the book kind of goes into it. He's like, okay, I have this girl in my arms. Loden's not going to stop me. Indira's not down there to stop me. She has no clue where I am. So I have to step up to the plate here, and I have to listen to what Loden was telling me. And he does.
Yep.
Hereth, look like you want to say something.
No, it's just my favorite, what I call Light of the Jedi is when I describe it to people, like when I always try to sell someone on Light of the Jedi, I always describe the style of writing as tension and release, because you'll go from like a very tense moment to very release, and that's a perfect example of tension and release. You're when he's falling out of the ship and he's trying to get into the atmosphere and he's just holding her. You're like, I remember reading it and listening to it and just being so intense, like I was literally at the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, is he gonna make it? Because again, throughout this entire book, they have been setting up that nobody is safe. Anyone could just go at any second. So I was just like, God, he could just like he's gonna screw up maybe. And then when he does it, you're just like you just like this like tense, just like kind of release. You're just like, oh, thank God he did it. It's just it's that's why I love the High Republic. It's just stuff like that where it's just I haven't felt that much tension in Star Wars in such a long time.
Just a whole lot of buttholes puckered the whole time.
I swear I was cheering when he landed. You're like, yes, yes, Bell, you king.
And then you relaxed.
Yeah, you're just like,
and then everything goes down the crap hole. But so now we're kind of changing directions since we were just talking about Bell, talking back to Marchion, and you find out that Marchion's just faking his ways the whole time, and that he has Mari, who is, I think, really cool, and I think their relationship is really interesting. So how do you guys kind of feel about Marchion Ro using Mari as kind of like a means to an end kind of relationship, and basically shocking her and letting her not die? Let's go Element first.
I think it's disgusting. I mean,
Yeah.
she's basically torturing her and taking advantage of her, mental capacity to make her think that she's doing things that she's having fun doing. Like, obviously she expresses that she loves jumping into hyperspace and gleaning all of these routes and seeing the stars, but he takes advantage of it psychologically, and it's just horrible. But I think more so than Marchion's use of it, I think what's more interesting is just the establishment of that ability. Because, well, first and foremost, it connects to the sequels now, right? Because we were introduced to Lor San Tekka in Force Awakens, and so now being able to read these books and like see, oh my gosh, the San Tekkas, they're a lot more historied in Star Wars, right? They're a family of prospectors, and they just revealed that one of their own had the ability of, like, for lack of a better term, like second sight or third sight, like the Chiss describe navigators. So it's awesome to see that, like, while I don't think she is force sensitive, Maria had the connection to hyperspace, that connection to that part of the force that enabled her to do so. And it's explored further with Vernestra. And I do want to answer Malik's earlier question. If you could take a character from High Republic and put them in any other era, I'd take Vernestra and put her in with Barriss and Ahsoka. See how that would play out. But Mari and Marchion is it's just disgusting. So I like to think of Mari as like what the implications are for her abilities on the larger narrative.
And Sawyer?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with everything Owen said, but oh man, this sounds so morbid, but I would like, in the narrative, I would like to see her be taken away from him.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Like, I don't think, I think my prediction is that she probably will die, and I don't think that'll be the end of Marchion or Marchion. I can't say that. It feel right. I don't think that'll be the end for him, but I do want, I kind of want to see that happen, because I want him to have this, maybe it's just me wanting him to have this moment of, oh my God, what do I do now? But and for her, yeah, it would be sad, but also it would be, freedom for her, even though she doesn't realize that she's in this captive, state of, continuous torment. Either that or she gets rescued, but either way, I don't think, that she would live much longer if she was rescued. But
Yeah.
It is certainly interesting, and it kind of makes you think, like, if he didn't have her, if the paths came from something else, would he have as much power as he does? Like, would he, clearly he wouldn't have as much power, like, in the dynamic of the Nile, but would he be compelled to get more power? Would he be as driven to become this evil in the galaxy if the paths, or if Mari wasn't in his possession? I don't know. Like, kind of, how much power does she give him in the greater context of his narrative?
I think it also serves as like a breaking off point for Markion's like future villainy, because of course in the Rising Storm she dies, so she's no longer this kind of leverage that he holds over the Nile, where he's the only one that can provide paths. Like, she's no longer that, linchpin to him. So it's interesting to see how moving forward he is going to keep everyone in line, what else he can offer, because, alongside the fact that Mari passed away, we also got introduced to the Leveler and all of these ancient artifacts that are within the purview of Markion's family history. And so I think it's going to get even beefier in terms of the story for Markion past Mari Santeca.
Yeah, and kind of fast forwarding a little bit, again, more to the end of the book, and we have basically the whole subplot with Bell and Loden just wrapping up. And like, as we touched on before, I was going to ask, what are your guys' thoughts on basically Marchion, this entire scheme to betray the Nile and kidnap the Jedi? I'll go to Sawyer first about like his entire scheme about trying to kidnap a Jedi.
I'm so sorry. Repeat the question.
No, you're good.
I've had a rough day. I apologize.
You're good.
You're good. It happens.
No, you're fine.
I would say, what are your thoughts on Marchion's whole scheme to just kidnap a Jedi and leading the Nihil along just this path?
And not telling them? Or
Yeah, just by not telling them and just basically borderline manipulating them.
I mean, I think it's really interesting. Something that kind of struck me as unusual is like all of the conversations he has with the Nihil in Rising Storm, because like they know he's bad news, and Lorna D and what's his name, Panetta, is that the one that's alive? They're like, we're gonna get his ass. No, like I think it's so, like, it almost seems like by this point he's not trying to hide things. Like, obviously he doesn't tell them about the Leveler and whatever, but it's just again, he's just anyway. What I was saying, but he seems really friendly with them, and like obviously it's manipulation, but I don't know, like he's so two-faced, and I mean, if I were him, I would also hide everything from my followers, but he's good at it. He does give them information when he needs something from them, and he's a master manipulator. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this plays out further, because one would think, based on how, well, no, because there is a moment where Marchion, is that really how, is that official?
Is that how they say it in the audiobook, right?
Charles Soule tweeted, Charles Soule replied to a fan who asked, and he said Marchion.
Well, Charles Soule needs to relearn the English language. But anyway, he yeah, he does have a moment in Rising Storm where he's like, oh, well, I wasn't prepared for this. Like, oh my God, what if I missed a step and what if I die? Like, he does have that moment of like, you know, being unsure of himself a little bit. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, okay, like he has to have some backup plan. He has to have a leveler for, like, I would not be surprised if he like got all the Nihil together and he killed them all.
Yeah.
Like after he establishes that he has enough power, I would not put it past him. Obviously, he wasn't afraid to do that to Kassav and that entire Tempest, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't. You never know. I just that's the beauty of his character, I guess. But
that's what makes Markion the most compelling villain in recent memory is simply because he is aware of his own weaknesses and flaws. There are points where he's like, oh my gosh, I did not account for this. You know, things. If the only certainty is in life is uncertainty, and he goes through it. He has all these plans. He has all these redundancies. Sometimes they don't go according to his plan, so he has to call audibles and improvise on the spot. But his response to those is brilliant. And so, like, you know, when he hands Panada his helmet, and then like it shocks Panada, and then you're just like, wow, that was a power move, you know. And sometimes he doesn't have to plan ahead. Sometimes he just has to make an on the second decision, and then it changes the course of his future. In terms of his you know, scheme to kidnap Lodin, I think we were set up to fail in terms of like predicting that to begin with, simply because we were, you know, plopped right in the middle of the golden age of Jedi, and everyone was counting on them to save them. And so when we read that somebody had called the Jedi on Frona to save the family, you're like, oh, someone cares. Yeah. And then, like, you know, it turns out that was his plan the whole time. And then you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's incredibly, he's a master later.
Yeah, and like you were saying with like calling audibles, and not to jump like too far ahead, but when Pen Ada basically exposes him for not having the paths in Rising Storm, he's like, okay. He's like, yeah, everyone, I actually don't have the paths, but let's go kill the Chancellor. And then he that. He's like, yeah, actually, I don't. There's an old lady. You're right. But death the Chancellor, so woo. Then everyone's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's also another thing that makes him compelling, right? When Panada thinks that he has him on the ropes for exposing him, Markion speaks to the larger crowd of the Nihil and is like, okay, so Panada did this. What is he offering you, though? Like, I can offer you glory. I can offer you more bounty, or booty, as Raiders would say. But like, he always presents a larger picture that even to like simpletons like Marauders and Nihil, they're like, okay, Panada, that was a great power move, but like, now what are you gonna do? And then Markion takes advantage of that kind of vacuum of thought, and, you know, addresses them in a big, powerful speech, just like, yes, of course, yes, he did it. He's right, but I can offer you so much more. So follow me. And Panada is like, damn it. I'm just imagining his voice.
He's just a big oomph. But yeah, so obviously then Loading gets captured, and everyone's like, oh my gosh. And why do you have to break his leg? Like, that just made everything so much more worse. He's just flying in there and just snaps his leg in half. You're like, no, Loading, what are you doing?
That's why. Ramsey. You answered your own question.
Yeah.
To make things worse.
Oh, yeah. But so after that, book kind of ends, and we're just like, what the heck? So kind of going into Rising Storm, did you guys have any like bold predictions or predictions about anything that was gonna happen during the book? And if so, how did they kind of play out? Just to kind of transition into Rising Storm. Let's go with let's go Element first, and then finish off with Sawyer.
I learned very early on after Light of the Jedi not to make such bold predictions about this kind of narrative because you really can't predict it. And I know you haven't read Into the Dark, but going off of Into the Dark, I did have some predictions.
Oh wait, I'm 100 pages in.
Okay, that's good. I'm not, but being non-specific and ambiguous about it, like off of Into the Dark, I did have some kind of like idea as to how the story would unfold, but again, Rising Storm is my favorite canon book for a reason. It just subverted all of my expectations. Now, just like on a basic level, I did think that the Drenger and the Nile would kind of present a two-tiered problem for the Jedi, and then that would create this massive kind of event that they had to deal with. And I guess on some level I was correct, but I did not predict how dark this event was going to be, how many people would lose their lives, how dirty people would end up. Like, you know, we have this kind of pristine image of Jedi that after they're done saving the day, like Orla Jareni, her robes somehow still pristine, but you know, that's just kind of like a self-aware thing. But like having them write in the book that after Stellan had saved the Chancellor along with Matari and Voru, and then he's holding her, but he's all bloodied up and like bruised and has like black eyes and stuff, and you're like, you know, this doesn't sound like a Jedi saving the day type of scenario. Like this is like, you know, Saving Private Ryan. They actually went to war, and these were the consequences. So I definitely didn't have any bold predictions going in. It definitely the story went in a direction that I did not anticipate at all.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with Sawyer. Any bold predictions you had, or any just kind of predictions in general, and then how did they pan out? And
I try not to.
Let me know your predictions.
I'm just bad at making predictions. Generally speaking, anytime someone's like, "Oh, what do you think is going to happen next week?" I don't know, but I made the mistake.
Quinlan Voss.
What?
Quinlan Voss in the High Republic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Quinlan Voss is going to pick up Crosshair in the next High Republic book.
Fact.
It's a gag. It's a gag.
Okay. Shows you how in the loop I've been in the past 3 months. No, but I did make the mistake of saying that Loden was going to go dark side, and everyone laughed at me behind the scenes saying that. Those of you who had read the book already.
Oh, we were not laughing. We were actually cringing that we couldn't say anything about it.
Yeah, whatever.
Like when you said that, we were like, "Oh no, we can't even say he's dead."
Anyway, no, but that's like I'm not good. Every time I go on a show and someone's like, "So, what do you think is, where we're gonna see in the future?" I just don't even know what to say. So I didn't have any predictions. I knew something bad was gonna happen, but it did not go in the direction I thought it was. Like, Elzar making his mistakes totally caught me off guard. Wasn't expecting that to happen, I don't know. I mean, I think just like Element said, this book did not go the way I thought it was going to go, like at all. So,
I mean, she does remind me that I was in fact correct, at least with my bet with Chaco, that I don't know if it was Chaco or someone else, but we were making a bet that Elzar was going to fall to the dark side, and I said, nope. He's going to have these inklings, this vision's going to cause him to kind of like, kind of downward spiral just a little bit, and then it's going to be like one of those like misdirects. And I was largely correct in that front. He recognized the dark side, and he was like, yeah, I need help. And that was very healthy of him to do. And I think Maybe in the future he has some more dark side temptations ahead of him, but for the most part, at least as far as we know, he had his brush and then he, confronted it and is now getting help to reconcile with his brush with the dark side. So
It did have me really confused though, because I did read a little bit more. I still have 30 pages, but it did. I got really confused for a second when they confronted the guy that they had in custody, and Elzar was like threatening him, and I was like, wait a second, like didn't he just go through a process where he was like, no, Darks? I did not realize that was like a ruse, but I was like,
oh yeah, that got me too.
What is happening?
When books do that, right? And I'm just like, hold on a second. This guy just asked for help. Yeah, it got me too.
I was like, Anakin moment? That's what I was first reading. I was just imagining like a Clone Wars Anakin moment, like when he's like choking people, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they're like, why'd you have to punch me in the gut so hard? He's like, I had to make it look believable, man. Come on.
Yeah. On that front, I think Stellan and Elzar kind of match, at least in terms of social dynamics, Obi-Wan and Anakin. Not necessarily a relationship, but just socially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like Elzar's a little bit like if what would happen to Anakin if he was in the High Republic.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been fine. So that's why Elzar learns and knows how to deal with these feelings instead of doing what Anakin did.
And Samira and Avar are his Padme.
Samira and Avar.
And Stellan is Obi-Wan because Stellan's like, you did it, didn't you? He's like, yeah, but come on now.
I don't think he's gonna stop.
Like I said, he's a SOTOR player with the flirt option. Anytime it happens, he's
That's
gonna
you.
choose it.
That is you.
No, I don't always. That's Chaco. No. Chaco is the one that says that whenever there's a flirt option, pick it. Right? I don't always pick it. I flirt selectively. But it seems like Elzar is more, he's channeling Chaco in that regard. He's just picking flirt no matter what.
The man's a bit of a dog mid-book.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So moving on forward into the beginning of the Rising Storm, we open up with, obviously we have the epilogue, basically concluding right where we left off with Light of the Jedi. Elzar still dealing with his vision. Move a little bit forward, we've checked back in with Bell, and we learn everything that's going on with him. And I have to ask, what are your thoughts with Bell deciding at that moment not to move on to being a Jedi Knight because Loden isn't there? I think it's Elvis.
I mean, I think it makes sense. He still has to reconcile with losing his master. He also has to reconcile with the fact that he doesn't even know if his master's alive. Everyone is trying to tell him that Loden's gone, right? But harkening back to or harkening forward to Luke, no one's ever really gone, right? So you have this thing at the back of your mind, and you're like, my master's gone, but I didn't see him die. So do I move forward or do I wait for him? It's a perfectly valid state of mind for him to be in, but at the same time, everything that he goes through is literally him passing his trials 5-10 times. Being impaled in Cyclor. And I think Carter, your mic is staticky because at least that's what I'm hearing right now. I don't know if anybody else hears that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it robot-y?
Yep.
Yeah.
You sound like Megatron again.
Okay, I'm just going to leave and then join back.
Whoa.
That was like Megatron. Anyway. Yeah, I think Bell personally deserves to be a knight 10 times over. but again, it's all about how the person feels. So if they don't feel like it's like mirroring, if you read Out of the Shadows, has anybody read Out of the Shadows in here?
Yep.
I'll just ambiguously, point to Vernestra, who is just having doubts about being as young as she is and being a master. Is she worthy? Is she ready for this? And so Bell, on the other hand, is like just asking himself, is he ready to be a Jedi Knight without his master? He didn't even finish training with his master. His master's not there to be like, hey, you deserve to be a knight. So it's quite the narrative to kind of witness someone. And a lot of people go through this too. I think Reith Silas lost Jor Malley in the Battle of Kerr, so
Yeah.
a lot of Padawans have been cut short from finishing their training, and so now it just has to, obviously Reith went forward with Comac, but they still have to reconcile with having their training, at least on one path, being cut off so severely or abruptly. And so I think it makes sense for him. Bell's experience in the Rising Storm is just very, very tragic and very, very sad.
Yeah.
Is my mic good, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Moving to Sawyer, obviously, I asked your thoughts on this as well.
I don't even remember what we're talking about. I'm such a bad guest tonight. I know
Bell
Bell,
not
but
being-
like,
Yeah.
No, you're fine. But Bell not getting his rank of knight.
oh, I mean, that
Once.
was mostly a
Yeah.
personal choice, but I don't know, man. I mean, I just keep thinking about the future of this character, like, Anakin moment. I mean, honestly though, like I said earlier that he was a good, comparison to Anakin because he was learning things. His relationship with his master was definitely more healthy than Anakin's relationship with Obi-Wan, just in the sense of like how he interpreted, what he was taught. But now I think we're gonna see more similarities between the two of them, because of his what happens in the Rising Storm. I know I haven't finished it, but I know what happens. I mean, I don't know. Elzar is definitely my favorite character now, but Bell's up there for me for sure, and he almost like I mean, I think he is the main character, like, of the adult books, more or less. There's multiple main characters, but it's like his story is definitely the most compelling, and I think he's going to be a central point of all of the adult books, quote unquote. And so, and he's always the person that I'm most looking forward to seeing what happens with him. So I'm not surprised that he took, it's a testament to his relationship with Loden as to why he didn't take the knight rank. And now he can't, because he promised himself he wouldn't do it until his master was there for him. And now he can't. So what does that mean? Like, so that was
Question for everyone here, including the peanut gallery. Do you think that Bell is going to turn out that his true knight trial will be to defeat Markian?
That would be awesome, and I think they're going to be I think there has to be a battle, a duel between Martian.
There's a possibility.
How epic would that be?
I've been thinking that since Light of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like I said, he feels like the main character.
Final scene. Yeah. Even though he's not, like, in the High Republic, Bell is not the Stellan of the Jedi Order. Because I don't even think Stellan knows who Bell is, right? He's like, who are you? Right? Whenever they first meet, he's like, who the heck is this guy? But I do think I agree with you, Sawyer, that I definitely think he's the main character. But yeah, I think we'll see a battle between Bell and Marchion.
Everyone dies except for Bell.
Oh.
It's just Ember and Bell.
Oh.
On depression.
First of all, I'd like to make a declaration. If they kill Ember, I'm gonna riot.
Oh,
Yes.
I'll just throw all
And-
my books out.
Just saying. I will become a toxic
I want
fan
a
at that
dog.
point.
Like,
You'll become John Wick.
Yeah.
Just heading up to Lucasfilm like John Wick style.
Leave it to Claudia Gray. She'll do it.
Oh God.
yeah. She will. Hereth, what do
If
you
they
think?
do, it better be well done.
Oh, they
Yes.
do it so
That's all I'm
smoothly.
Shout out to Brooke, Far Far Away Factory. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just going to shout out Brooke. Thank you for joining. Johnsky, thank you for joining us. Aiden, the Talk Star Wars topics, thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Just a real quick shout out. Guess kind of moving past that, at the beginning of Rising Storm, we kind of shift away from the Jedi, and we get some politics, and we see that though we as a reader, and I'm guessing all of us here, love Lena Soul and think Lena Soul is like the best thing ever, but then we learn that there's a whole part of the Senate that does not like Lena Soul, does not like the Force, and wants the Force to basically be contained more than what it is, and led by Senator Toon. Do you guys have any kind of just general thoughts, just kind of talking about that scene with Lena and Toon, and then the politics get extremely heated, and then it ends with Lena giving one of the best speeches by a chancellor that I think we've heard, because I think that speech is like really, really powerful. Just kind of your overall thoughts on that. Let's go with
Sawyer.
who went first last time. Let's go Sawyer.
I feel like if I comment on this, then everyone like now. I don't like Lena So. And she bothers me.
Oh.
I feel like this is like a Cap versus Iron Man thing when I tell people that I used to side with Iron Man and they're like, ugh. She kind of stupid. She's too ignorant for this galaxy. Obviously, she almost died. I think she should have died. I said that on the podcast on Dyad. She's just too ignorant. Tia Toon was obviously he was 100% correct. She is just too optimistic. Not for me.
Wow.
Oh, I was not expecting that.
Oh my God.
I think a lot of people, when they think about Lena, I think a lot of the sentiment around Lena in the beginning, right, with Light of the Jedi, is that she's like too good to be true, and she would be like, eventually she'd turn into an evil, like, chancellor, which is why I appreciate her that much more, because no matter, like, she is optimistic to a fault. Yes, she was wrong about the Republic Fair, but she's not wrong about her initiatives, right, to connect the galaxy together with the Starlight Beacon and just her general aspirations as a chancellor. Now, it's interesting to kind of look at the politics and kind of not worry about corruption and just kind of worry about just a disagreement on policy. So like Tia Toon, like when they start to kind of, allude to the fact that he might have ulterior motives, and then they reveal that no, he isn't. He just has a different kind of, policy, different kind of ideology that he's working with, and he doesn't betray them. He's just, I just want more funding for defense, and that's it. And this Republic Fair is a waste of money. And agree or disagree with him or Lena So, it was such a great implementation of politics, because there is no right or wrong. There is no like which is better, and there is no good or evil either, right? It's a way to kind of create an analog to today's politics, where there's several disagreements on ideology and policy, and it's good to see that at least in this book that the politics was centered on that discourse rather than having one senator being the evil villain that was betraying the cause. I think both of them have their merits and both of them have their flaws. But I did appreciate the fact that she did not die and become a martyr for basically Tia Toon to basically lose everything, like lose his entire kind of campaign against her, because if she had died, then people would have latched onto that and tried to further her goals even more. But now that she's survived, the conversation around who is right for the Republic, whether it's Lena or Toon, can continue. So I actually I really loved the dynamic between the two.
Yeah. It's just like I love, again, like I'm like Element. I can see both sides of the equation. I can see both their flaws, both their strengths, but like it's kind of like horrible to know that like most of the time, like for most of the book, it's like when all this is going down, when he's like warning her about, hey, this is gonna happen at the Republic Fair, and so it's just kind of being like ignorant, but like, oh no, it's not gonna happen. It's just for those moments I'm with Toon, and then at the end I'm with So of like, we need to give the galaxy hope. So yeah, just like Element, I see both sides of the equation.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not wrong. Like Sawyer said, Toon's really not wrong when he's warning her, being like, okay, the Nile are going to look to attack us when we're at this fair because you're being dumb. And
now we have to contextualize that, right? Because this is all part of Markion's plan to begin with. He wanted them to lay low. He wanted them to keep a low profile and stop all activity to give that sense of like security to Lena. So it's not like she's like arrogantly saying we need to put on this pompous fair to, bolster the galaxy's morale and just be all happy and partying. It's like the Markion set it up where the environment in which she puts on a fair is exactly the environment that she thinks is going on. She thinks that the Nile aren't going to attack. She thinks that the Nile have largely been wiped out and eradicated, and they're just like, they have their tail between their legs and they're running away. And so Toon is correct in assuming that there is a threat out there and that they need to be cautious about it, and like the fair is the last thing that they need to be spending money on. Lena is playing into Markion's hand, so that's where her optimism was to a fault. She was optimistic about the results of the Battle of Kerr. She was optimistic about whether or not the Nile were still a large threat. And it bit her in the butt.
Yeah.
You talking?
No, it's just, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it's kind of like, again, not using Palpatine as a quote, but like, her overconfidence was her weakness. That was her downfall. She was so confident that everything was going to work out the way it was that she failed to see what was right in front of her the whole time.
Yeah,
this was gonna happen. It was inevitable. Like, this was gonna happen no matter what.
But then you also have
she's
to
like so optimistic.
You have to also applaud her how she conducted herself. She wasn't an uppity chancellor who took the first ferry out for essential personnel. She was on the ground protecting people and helping people, and she even tried to protect, the queen of Shili. And she was taking hits. She was taking all the damage that came with that event, and you don't expect that from a politician. as gracious as they may be, a politician would probably be the first one out, the first one to be evacuated and not have to deal with any of that.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Yeah,
moving forward to, again, back to switching gears from the Republic to the Nile, I would say, obviously we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to touch back upon it, is back to Martian Rowe. What do you guys think of his abilities to like just adapt and change on a dime? Like, because we have like the moment with him and Pan, and about how he's almost about to kill him right then and there. I'm gonna ask Sawyer this first.
I mean, I kind of touched on this. I mean, I don't know. Markion. I can't do it. I'm not even sure what to say. Like, he really surprised me in this book. He's going to surprise me and everything. But, like, it did surprise me that Panada and Lorna D were, like, making a pact, because that kind of goes against the dynamic that we are introduced to in Light of the Jedi completely. And yeah, I mean, Lorna D will probably betray him, but like, even so, like, at least for now, they're in it to defeat this guy. And Markion, I don't even know what to comment on that I haven't already brought up in terms of him being, such a dynamic character and kind of being afraid of them, but also kind of being a threat to them. Like, I mean, we really need that backstory.
yes.
Clearly, this boy has such emotional trauma that he is all over the place, which I can relate to for sure. But like, it's kind of hard to decide which of Markion's actions you should focus your attention on, if that makes sense. Because sometimes he's just kind of all over the place, or he is all over the place. And so it's like, okay, which of these things that he does are the most important? Like, it's really hard to determine that, I think. And, we get a little bit more certain of that as time goes on, but now we have this question of, okay, is there a chance that he could be defeated by his people? No, we know that that's not true, but yeah, like, I don't know. They have this interaction where he's like, oh crap, what's up here? I didn't expect this. It's just like, do we focus on that? Do we? I don't think we focus on that, because everything else he's doing is like, but it brings back my question from earlier. Like, does he have something up his sleeve that he is holding out on for the rest of the Nile, to use against them? Mm-hmm. That's not a question we have answered. Yeah, he had a moment of fear, but it's like, I just can't, knowing what we know about this character, I can't imagine that he doesn't have, like, maybe he didn't have it at his disposal at that moment, but I just find it really hard to believe that he doesn't have like a be-all end-all solution to that problem that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, Elements, what are your thoughts on Martian's ability to adapt and change? Just kind of touching your thoughts on that.
That's great. No, like Sawyer said, Markion is like, he's a villain that has zero power, and all of the flaws the normal person would have, but the way he kind of maneuvers socially among the Nile and kind of bigger picture across the galaxy against the Republic and against the Jedi is like a person that is a master of sleight of hand. Like she said, what do you pay attention to in terms of what he's doing? Are these things that he's planning out or he's enacting, is it substantial? Is it a misdirect? do we have to pay attention to this attack or not? Like, I think Markion's biggest strength is that he is weak, and he's going to do everything it takes to compensate for that weakness. That's why it's so compelling to have him, confronting that he is not strong. Panada can crush him within an inch of his life in a matter of half a second, and I would argue that, and this is why I'm excited for tomorrow's Tempest Runner. I would argue that Lorna D is just as smart as Markion, but there's something about Markion that just gives him the edge in terms of like manipulation, because you don't have to be smart to manipulate someone into being dumber than you, even though you're smarter. So everything that he does, every action that he takes, makes you kind of pause for a second and just approach with care. That's what makes him a really great villain.
Yeah. Have you read Tempest Runner?
No. It's an audio drama.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you got that early or anything. Yeah. I think that's something that really makes him unique. And unlike most, if not all, villains we've seen in Star Wars, because obviously Palpatine is crazy strong, Vader is crazy strong, Dooku extremely strong. Maybe, I guess, Thrawn could maybe be an exception, that he's not like extremely strong but just tactically a genius. But I think that's like just what makes Marcion scary, is that he doesn't need to be strong, and he's
you put
not
Markion
strong.
and Thrawn together.
Oh God.
Well,
Oh God.
You have the underpinnings of manipulation and planning, and then Thrawn to handle the strategic nature of like wars and battles. Oh God,
The galaxy would be screwed.
Oh my gosh, that's like a scary thought.
Yeah.
But they're both kind of similar in the way that, I mean, I guess Thrawn is like a beast. He knows like karate or whatever, but Marcion, like this, you know what I mean? He's like kicking and doing all this cool crap.
I believe he's doing Terrace Kasi, but I'm not quite sure on that. But he definitely doesn't know karate.
I'm sorry.
Carter moment.
I'm just kidding.
All I know is that in Galaxy of Heroes, he like. It's really funny.
He throws his limbs at you, and then you take massive damage.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's, I think, just what makes Thrawn really unique. And I know Element has to go soon, but if we could just do one more little section here. On Ty York, which I think Ty's a really cool character personally. I think she's just very interesting. So let's go Element first. What are your thoughts on the introduction to Ty York? Just kind of off doing her own thing, and I guess, yeah, just what are your overall thoughts on Ty York?
I'm going to be quick because I do have to go. But Ty York is a great character. It's our first Saber for hire. It's our first a Jedi who has left the Order, as early as the High Republic era. Not counting Ahsoka, that happens later. But we get a lot of people that have all of these. Yeah, we get a lot of people that cite all of these like rules and dogma of the Jedi Order, but no one has ever been expelled from the Order for these things, and we only have people that leave. Ty York, we still don't know what happened, why she left, but I just love the fact that she calls Jedis Jays, and just the overall atmosphere around how she makes her decisions based on I forget what she uses, like stones, and it's just a very different flavor of a Jedi. Even like she's not a Jedi, but a very different flavor of a former Jedi, and her interactions. No, And her actions definitely kind of mirroring. Yeah, her actions definitely mirroring Geralt of Rivia a lot. So I really love yeah, as
Is that
Chris
this
says.
week? Is that this week? Season 2?
I believe.
Sorry.
you're
I was
good.
just
Yeah, toss that coin to Tyoric. Oh, planet of plenty.
And then do you have to go?
Yes.
Okay.
You're good.
Real quick before we go to Sawyer, just tell us who you are. And just where can we find you? And we thank you so much for joining.
Element.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. I love talking about the High Republic. I love talking about Star Wars, and I love talking with you guys and Sawyer. You can find me on youtube.com/element7s or just search element7. On Twitter at element7x, 7 spelled out. On TikTok underscore element7 underscore. Yeah, and Diet in the Force happens every Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Tune in, have a blast with us, and join Squadron 7.
Absolutely.
Yes, Squadron 7 for life.
Squadron 7 for life.
All right. Thank you so much for joining Element. Love to have you on again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. See ya. Okay, Sawyer. Your thoughts on Ty York and kind of how we get introduced to her and her whole little adventure with the Drengir.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to learn more about her. I do think her character is really compelling. I want to know why she left the Order. I want to know all the stuff that Element already said. But what I want more than anything, I think, out of this character, I want to see her interact with Elzar more, because they had a moment, and I feel like it's one of those things where they could just never address that again, but I want them to. I'm hoping that they continue that. And that's kind of one of the beauties of having this series dictated by only 4 authors, interchanging everything. So I think they will continue that storyline, but yeah, I don't want that to drop off, but I want, I don't know if we're getting comics with her, but I want standalone material about her, because I really want to see more monster hunting, but also her origins. And, as I've said, many times, I really like that the High Republic has introduced to us a lot of different new pathways for Jedi to take. Obviously, she's not a Jedi anymore, but we don't see a lot of people leave the Order. We have, we haven't really seen many Jedi decide they're going to take the bearish vow. That is a what? Okay. And then we have the Wayseekers and just all these different pathways that Jedi can take that we've been introduced to. And I think Ty York, is a great example of that. She left the Order, but she didn't abandon it, she held on to some of her values. She held on to that lightsaber. She was like, oh, okay, wait a second, I can use this for something. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more of her and seeing, where she came from and what her future looks like. Because I don't think she's done, even if they don't touch on the Elzar thing, I don't think she's done, working with the Jedi, even though she probably wants to be. She's kind of roped in now. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with her. And I don't know, maybe she'll convince Elzar to leave. I could see that happening, because I feel like he's not going to be able to get rid of some of his habits. I don't see him going to the dark side, but I don't see him
sticking with it.
That man likes women a little too much.
And yeah, that's actually a good transition on what we're kind of talking about next was Elzar's one night stand with Samira. Oh, Elzar, buddy. And then he wakes up from the one night stand and has a bit of regret and walks outside and the world's ending.
I love it.
So if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, this will be my send off, because I gotta go take my boyfriend to his house.
No, you're good.
Oh, you're all good.
I
You're good.
have the car.
Ah.
Yeah.
I see how that works in a relationship.
Anyway.
How did you get the? Wait, did you drive the whole way from?
No, I stayed over. I
Across
stayed in
the
Florida over
country?
the summer.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
when
you
I
just
got
did
my
it.
car, yes, I did, but no.
Oh, that's painful. Anyway,
Yeah, it was
keep going.
painful. But anyway, I yeah, I love Elzar. I love him for this reason because we're all human. We all make that mistake, right? Yeah. But you know, it's again not a different pathway. You know, he's still very much a Jedi Master, or is he a Master? Did he? Is he a Master? Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think he did eventually. But you know, he's not conventional in any respect, and you know, I think he is so relatable. You know, like there's just a lot of times we see, especially like compared to Stellan, who is like the epitome of what it means to be a good and true and whatever, follow the code, you know, that's a Jedi. And then we have his best friend who's just kind of human. We don't see that very often in characters, and I think that his hobbies get him into trouble, but in a different respect than Anakin, you know, like he realizes he needs help and he's like, okay, this is bad, but you know, it's just it's a little bit goofy, and it's just very, you know, he's dealing with some very human emotions and some very human mistakes. And I think the High Republic takes a lot of risks with showing us that stuff, just like Comac and Orla dealing with the grief of their, you know, incident from 25 years in the past. Sorry, I'm not going to spoil it for you. But those characters, they have a journey where they have to deal with real emotions, you know, and we see that a lot in this series. So yeah, it's just kind of, you know, was he irresponsible? Does he blame himself? Yeah, but it's just kind of goofy. It's like, oh, you know, we all do that. Like, you know, we don't all do that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just nice to have a Jedi who is making very human mistakes. And you know, and doing it not necessarily intentionally like Anakin was, but like, I don't know. It's nice to have relatable characters like that and in a very strict order as the Jedi.
Yeah. It's just like, again, I know we talked about this earlier, but again, everyone makes the parallel and I make the same parallel. It's, again, he's very much like Anakin, but just with the right tools around him to allow him to succeed.
Yes. And I really appreciate how when he says, I need help, they're like, okay, good, we will help, instead of, what do you mean you need help? You can't have that. You should know better. You know, that's not what's happening.
Right.
Yeah. It's really great how he can say that publicly, like, oh my gosh, I just threw an island and I reached into the dark side, and they're like, and instead of them pushing him away, they're they're being therapeutic to him, which is the right right way to handle the situation, and not what the prequel Jedi did, and
right.
The High Republic is just.
If you have any,
it's just, again, like we said, High Republic is amazing. And again, I know, so you're crunching for time, so I gotta ask you, who are you? Where can we find you? And TikTok, on your social media platforms, because I know you're probably crunching for time.
Yeah. I just gotta do this homework and then I gotta.
No, you're good. College needs over.
I have to do all the driving. No, I'm Sawyerism on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. One of these days I'll start YouTube because Jesse and I are starting a podcast soon.
That's what I've heard.
I know. But hello, boyfriend cameo.
Stormlight.
Anyway, yeah, that's where you can find me. I might be posting. I don't know. I don't do anything anymore. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I do. I talk about Star Wars.
Yeah.
And lore, deep lore.
So
Lore
Yeah.
master, some will say.
Emperor Sawyer.
But thanks for joining us, Sawyer.
Yeah, thanks
We
for having
appreciate
me.
it. Again, we'd love to have you back. This was a great conversation.
Anytime.
And best of luck with you driving your boyfriend around.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya. Thank you. All right. Now it is the They Fly Now show with just me and you.
Back to the old school, just me and you.
Yep. All right. So we can kind of just start into, I think, the Republic Fair and the complete, just utter disaster that it was.
Yeah.
And for the viewers, we're going to be breaking it down by each, because you could just call them subplots. So we're going to be talking about Belle's subplot with trying to find the Chancellor's son. We're going to be talking about Elzar's subplot with kind of Samira and mostly with Ty. We're going to be talking about Stellan's subplot to protect the Chancellor. Hereth, do you want to kind of just talk?
Yeah. So
Let's just start with Belle's journey.
Yeah, starting off with Belle, we have basically him going on a quest into finding the Chancellor's kids, and I would say out of all of the journeys, all of them are very emotional, but I feel like this right here is the emotional core of it, because I would say there are two main plots. Obviously, there's like 4 subplots, but I would say the 2 main ones are Belle and Stellan are the main 2 that are like we're most probably
For
following.
sure.
And so for that, I feel like Belle's story is very emotional. We have him going down with the guy getting trapped under the cave, and he's like trying to lift him up, and him going in the water, and
Dennis is the GOAT.
Also you're
Hurry up
roboting
and
again.
die. Oh no! Let me just.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, back to what I was saying. So yeah, we have Dennis, him trying to help Dennis up, and him diving into the water, and it's just, yeah, I don't really have much to say about this stuff. Like, again, I remember being so tense, like, because Belle was just going, pushing all the work. He was just doing labor after labor after labor. He was just he's like, hey, go lift this guy up. Okay, jump in the water, push the ship out, and then make it so he can take off. You're just like, Belle, my god. Because like Belle's doing all like overload on like in this entire section, and you're just like, dude, you're already in pain. Ember's there. Ember's gonna die, or she's fine. Okay, I guess. And then you're just like, you're just like push, just get ready to like, just like. So the entire like section is just utter chaos, and then you have and then you have like everyone working together, and that conflict of like the guy's like, I never flown in like this amount of years. You're like, what?
It's like I used to be a pilot.
You're just like used to.
Yeah, and Belle's like doing everything, like trying to free this guy, lifting this up, and then right whenever he frees him, he like I'm pretty sure they go up, and then something happens and the guy just dies right away. And you're like, okay, that was literally just for nothing. And then he's like, Ember, please just go take them to safety. I have to go do my own mission now. And he runs off and is trying to find the Chancellor's son. So this man is just going boom, 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 to place to place to place, just to try to do like everything he can to help people survive. And then it just turns into chaos. And you're like, you just feel bad for Belle, and he's just exhausted.
Yeah.
And also, what's the Chancellor's son's name? Why am I forgetting?
I'm forgetting it as well. It's kind of
Kip and his friend. There is LGBT representation there. I'm almost 100% sure, because I forget the passage, but it's like they were like looking at each other, and I'm pretty sure they kiss. If anyone, I'm like pretty sure that's what's going on, because they like say like their mouths touch or something. But I think that's awesome that they did that, especially with Kip. Except Kip's just always there. You almost feel bad for him. Like Selena's up there, she's like, "Oh my gosh, hello Galaxy," and then Kip's just in the back.
Kip's like, yeah, that's my mom.
It's like, I hate my life. I hate the media. I hate getting interviewed. Why am I here? He's just so relatable in that way.
Why are we here? Just to suffer.
Anything else on Belle's journey besides it was just Belle just straight grinding to save everyone?
I don't really have
Do
much
you have
to
anything
add.
else to touch on?
It's emotional, intense. That's the first like
Yeah.
words that always come to mind for that.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Guess we just move to the next one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Stellan. And Stellan, you can see, or you can really visualize him being exhausted as crap. There's like one passage where it's like Stellan like falls down and he like gets up. He's like, I have to keep going. It just shows like I think Stellan is kind of like everyone on the planet or every like Jedi on the planet that is just trying and giving it their all to protect everything. And like right as he's getting the crap beat out of him by the Trandoshan.
Yeah.
And then just kills him. And one thing to point out about this fight and about the High Republic and something that we really haven't talked about much tonight is that the Jedi don't kill. Like, these Jedi are doing every single thing they can to not kill their enemies. We see this with everyone up in the sky with Nib and Buryaga. Indira spares the Nile's life because she's like, I do not want to kill him, even if he's just on opposing sides to me. And at the beginning, Stellan does not kill the Trandoshan because he's viewing the Force that way. And it's a lot different than the prequel Jedi. I just think that's something really cool to point out about the mentality of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went on a little rant there.
No, you're good. It's just, again, like we brought up a lot, the High Republic is meant to be similar but different. We're supposed to see these like different angles of the Jedi Order, but it's different or similar to what we see. It's like it's not like it's drastic, but it also sometimes it's just like little twists. Like again, like we brought up, like Indira not killing the Nile leader, being like, no, I'm not going to kill you. You've already killed so many people so far.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think that's something really cool to point out. And then obviously Stellan's just giving it his all to Lena. And then the scene with him holding Lena's soul when he thinks he's dead is a top 3 scene in that book. 100%. It's so vivid. The way that they write that is so clear. I just think it's emotional. And you're like, oh my gosh, I remember I DM'd you. And I was like when I was reading it, I just finished the chapter. I was like, she did not just die.
Mm-hmm.
Lena's soul did not just die. And then you read like a chapter later and she's fine. But
it's that whole chapter in general is, this and Belle's are the emotional journey. Like, this is everything we've read up until now coming ahead, and everything is starting to develop and escalate. And Stellan's whole journey with Lena So and Lena still keep pushing out of the way because like they're trying to rescue her, but she's like, no, we are gonna go help people. We're gonna go in. We're gonna go, and like it just shows again the contrast of Lena So is meant to show the difference between what is it like if the Republic had a good chancellor that was working for the Republic and trying to push everything that the Jedi want. Because, again, this is supposed to contrast Palpatine, who's really not... If you really think about it, he's not really in it for the Republic. He's just there to further his scheme as a Sith.
For himself.
Yeah. So it's like, in general, it's just... That whole journey is just, again, to just push that point into extreme. And Stellan's whole battle with Lorna, her just basically... just like pumped up on like basically what we could just call it steroids, basically, of her just feel this energy of her like pushing and pushing and pushing and just getting pushed to this level of insanity, And if you guys don't know, in the audiobook, this portion when they
Duel
battle,
of the Fates.
we get some Duel of the Fates, and it's so
Oh.
it's so fucking cool. Oh shit, it's so cool. and he's battling with like two lightsabers, and like you have that whole section, and this book just cements how great of a Jedi Stellan is. And again, like you said, that you get that emotional ending of the Republic Fair with him holding So in his hands, being unconscious. It's just
it's just so heart-wrenching.
Chef's kiss.
And you could just imagine how chef's kiss. Because I was listening to it in 2x speed while reading, because I think that's like the way to do it, reading books.
Yeah.
And I slowed it down. I started hearing Duel of the Fates. I'm like, no. We're gonna listen to this section at 1x speed just for the Duel of the Fates. Yeah, that part is just so good, and then you see how like the Nile released all of like the gas or the smoke, whatever, and then Stellan's just standing there, and then come the Nile, and you just boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that Stellan's journey in during the Republic Fair tragedy is great.
It's incredible,
and it just shows who Stellan is. Yeah, it's incredible, and it shows why Stellan is the poster boy Jedi, because I really think he is. I think that's kind of how he's set up.
Yeah,
to be the Jedi. He's good looking. He's a little bit. I mean, he has his flaws, but Stellan's awesome.
Again, it's Stellan and Bell that always switch back and forth for my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah, so good.
You go to like Bell's subplot right to Stellan's, and you're like, can we go back to Bell? And it's like, nope, we have to go to Panetta's. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But moving a little bit forward, we got to go with Elzar subplot with his temptation with the dark side and him having the traumatization of all these visions. I got to ask about that in general.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Elzar. Well, I want to keep it PG, but Elzar has like the worst post-nut clarity of all time.
I mean, you put it bluntly.
He hooks up with Samira. I know we kind of talked about this a little bit with Sawyer. He's like, okay, where's my Jedi robe? Oh, it's right here. He's like, oh, my lightsaber's here. Good. Ooh, and Ty's lightsaber's here. Like, okay, we're good. We lucked out. Nothing's lost. Walks outside. And he's like, oh, no. Oh, no. What have I done? And then... what are you saying?
Oh, sorry. I was like, again, like you said, it's just like the Anakin moment. Like, what have I done? Oh, my God. Why did I bang this chick?
I love it. And then when he takes the island and just boom, and then he's like, oh my gosh, what have I just done? He's like, I killed people, but I defeated more Nile. But that scene is like, what the heck? Elzar is powerful as crap. I'm assuming these islands are pretty big too. Like,
yeah,
I'm just kind of picturing like in Avatar, like those like the floating islands. Is that what you kind of visualized also?
I visualized. It was funny because obviously this is hilarious because Lucasfilm or Disney owns Lucasfilm. I was just visualizing like Epcot, like imagine if like Epcot was a planet and just like all the cities and regions that.
Yes.
There's obviously concept art online.
And you just like.
Of that, but yes, that's exactly what I was visualizing.
I don't think I've looked at any concept art of that. I kind of want to now. I'm gonna look it up.
But that's what I was visualizing. I was visualizing Epcot and like the large scale of it with all the beams going up and like all of like the regions and the different cities and that kind of stuff. Like that's what I was visualizing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Can't find any concept art, but we're good. Yeah, that's definitely what I visualize. Also is Epcot but get to like dig up each thing and then just float it up in the air.
Yeah.
That's kind of also how I visualize it. Yeah, and then Elzar obviously then having that regret is like, okay, I tapped in the dark side. I'm going to tell these people, and then we're going to keep moving. I think it's really cool. You have anything else to kind of touch on with that?
No, it's just I love how like there's a moment between Tayork and Elzar, and she's like, she senses into the mind. She's like, dude, you're just a fucking dirty dog. Like I love that little moment
when they touch hands.
She's like going into his mind. Elzar's like, we'll touch on this later. This is not important right now.
And he starts thinking of Avar right when they touch hands.
Yes.
Why'd I have to think of that? Darn it.
He's like, not again.
And then that's all I got for kind of Elzar's little subplot.
Yeah, and then
I think we kind of
there's
gonna maybe touch on.
There's
Yeah.
one more thing I want to touch on with the Republic Fair. It's
Okay.
the whole subplot with the communication tower. Obviously, we're
Yeah.
following this person trying to get the comms back up. I don't know why I'm forgetting her name, but she's trying to get the comms back up. And when she gets the comms back up, we have this like news broadcast of like, this is Valo right now at his state, and it's just covered in smoke and fire. And honestly, not to get too, I want to say political, but like too in real life. But like when I was listening and reading to that, I was thinking of 9/11. Like I did never experience it, obviously, because I was born right after it. But like from what people told me, like what it's like, that's exactly what I was just visualizing in my mind. I was like, holy shit, Star Wars! This is just, we were getting super dark with like what's going on with the status of Valo. It was just, so that's what I was personally visualizing when that was going on.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. That's a really good way to put it. And obviously 9/11 is like a very horrible thing, but that's like a good way to like a parallel, I would say. And then kind of moving past the Republic Fair.
Yeah.
Hereth, what are your kind of thoughts on Lena right when she wakes up? She's like still working, still wanting to better the galaxy, and noticing, because she knows she's wrong. She's like, I messed up. This is my fault. I want to try to fix this. What's your thoughts on that?
It just shows the contrast between her and Palpatine. What happens when somebody of proper power and has good intention is running the Republic? It just, even through everything she's been through, she goes through hell and back in this book. She's still working. I know Sawyer touched on about how she doesn't like her and how she's either arrogant, but like that scene just perfectly cements why I like Lena so. Just her pushing through everything, going, you know what? I may be dying right now, but the Republic needs a figure to look up to and to give hope. And she's like, I am going to be that person.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
She's the beacon of hope for the galaxy, saying the Nile are not going to break us down. We are going to fight back.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's been through hell and back and still has that. And that mindset. And like we were saying earlier, like Element was kind of saying, like, he just really hopes she wasn't plotting against the Republic. And this is like, she's not. I think that's like the perfect example that she is not fake. She literally just basically died and got revived. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if she was going to fake it, she would have faked it there.
Right.
But she didn't. She stuck to her morals, stuck to her guns, and was like, we need me. We need to be to be in this for the Republic.
Yeah, we need to be vigilant during these times.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Then moving on, what are your kind of your? I know we kind of touched on it a lot, but like your thoughts on Elzar's temptation with the dark side.
Yeah.
I think we touched on that a lot. I
When
think.
like Element Sawyer said, when it was going down in the interrogation room, I was 100% believing that was Elzar 100%. Like the whole
Mhm.
like him like throwing people to force, you're like, oh my god, he's so much like Anakin. So
Yeah.
when that first was going down, I was like, oh my god, he just asked for help. What is happening? So and then obviously there's the reveal
Yeah.
that like Selena being like, sorry, I had to make it look believable. You're just like, but like that felt so real.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It feels so real. Because you're like, what is he doing? What is he doing? He's like, I'm sorry, man. He's like, why'd you have to punch me in the gut so hard? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I just had to kind of do it. Which that whole plot of them tricking the Nile is like genius until I forget her name. That just goes and snitches
oh
on
yeah,
everyone.
she kind of had to for the Nile's sake, but it's still gut wrenching.
It's just like, and then the fact that it kind of just transitioned to that.
Yeah, we can change that.
The attack on the Nile camp. The fact that Belle hears her and Indira hear her say that, and they're like, "Oh no! Oh no!" You're just like, no.
It's painful.
Yeah, because a lot of times we get this dramatic irony where we know and the characters don't, and then this happens. But this time it was, we know and the characters know what she just said to them.
Yeah.
And there's like, shit. Then they go run and hide.
It's a very much like an Empire Strikes Back Lando moment.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it is. Yes, it's very much like an Empire Strikes Back Lando moment. And then
It's
you
again,
go.
like I was saying, we obviously moving forward a little bit more. Obviously, this is a little bit before this, but I still have to ask about this. Right after the Republic Fair, we get this really dark, anonymous scene with Loden waking up. And it's the first time you feel him in this entire book is Loden waking up for the first time.
Wait. We do see him on chapter like 19 or 20. Somewhere around there. Maybe it's like chapter 12. We do see Loden, but yeah, this is I know.
Yeah. And like when he first like feels out and he's like, dude, my monstrals are gone. It's like, and like he's skinnier and he's like basically breaking down to his like his core is just ripped out of him.
Yeah.
I gotta ask about that. Your thoughts on that whole scene of like him like waking up being like, what is going on?
Well, it's heart-wrenching. That's it. It's heart-wrenching. But through it all, through being tortured and abused, he sticks to the light.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what gets him out of there. And it's heartbreaking to see this Jedi. His name is Great Storm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just sounds like he's the man. Loden's the man in Light of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And then to see him now, and he's broken down, and he's mentally just
drained.
Defeated. It's very, it hits hard.
Definitely.
What about you? What's your thoughts on that?
Again, like I said, it's draining as not just for Loden, but as a reader, because the entirety of Light of the Jedi is just built on getting Charles Soule is trying to get you to like Loden, and then once you get attached to him, he rips you away like that, and you have to adapt to this change, and Calvin Scott just turns it up to 100, and it's one of the most heart-wrenching things in all of Star Wars, and him sensing out and just feeling everybody else's pain around him. It's just like, it just shows how much Marcion is a genius. It's just, but it hurts so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Originally, I was on kind of the bandwagon that they're going to try to turn Loden to the dark side, but Loden said, no, I'm too morally strong for that. Which I think is like amazing.
It is.
That he is that strong. And then the reunion. What Hereth, what's your thoughts? It's tough, but what's your thoughts on like the reunion and how much Calvin Scott makes you think there's hope?
The hope is like once Indira and Belle are waking through and they're making their way in, and Belle has that moment. He's like Loden's alive, and he just dashes off. You're like, oh no, it's happening. And it's just and like Belle running, it's just like you can like feel like the hope, like Star Wars, like the do like that kind of like you're just like no, and just and then again, it's hard to put into words for this entire section because it's just all I feel is like pain because obviously what we know how this ends and basically Loden not able to hold himself and put himself up, and Belle basically carrying him into battle, and he's using all his Force energy at once just to push himself out and strengthen the Force.
Yeah, it's powerful. And it's real. It's just like mountains and valleys.
Yeah.
Mountain, valley. We think it's all good, and then everyone gets so hopeful, and then no. Or we think they're going to, like, they're Loden and Bella are going to make it out of the situation in Light of the Jedi.
Yeah.
We think it's going good. Belle escapes. Indira escapes. Loden breaks his leg, gets captured, and it's with Marcion. We think it's going so good. Loden's escaping, and so we're in this valley. They get back together. We think everything's going good. No. Go back down to a valley.
It's just, again, it's hard to, again, this entire section of Belle and Loden's reunion it's just a false hope. They're making you think it's gonna end well, when in reality it doesn't. You're just waiting for the bomb to go off, and when it does, it just hits you. So I gotta ask, since speaking of the bomb going off, what do you think of Marcion Ro's entire inner monologue of him basically going through the mental process of, I'm gonna just destroy the hope in this Jedi?
Yeah. You mean the inner monologue with his father?
Yeah, like because again, Marcion Ro has a split personality disorder, so it's like,
which is like, do you think that actually was his father, or do you think that was just all in his head?
It's all in his head, of course. There's no way he's still alive. But this whole like mental game of him trying to convince himself that it's gonna go well, it hurts.
Yeah, that inner monologue little section is really interesting because we kind of get to see what's going on inside of Marcion's head. Because this is probably not the only time that we see Marcion think he's talking to his father. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we see it here. And we see him saying, no, I'm going to be better than you. I am better than you. You got killed. I'm going to do everything that you couldn't do.
Yeah.
And then it happens. And spoiler, Loden dies.
One of the greatest cliffhangers in all of Star Wars. I will die on that hill. When that happens, every single time, I'm just like, it just hits you so hard. And I don't know if I told you this, but the way the audiobook ends is so dirty. Mm-hmm. It's like it goes going, I haven't felt this fear in a long time. And then
he's like, there's like no escape, basically. Here, let me try to see if I can just find that line because it's right at the end here.
It's I believe it still hasn't felt this much fear in a long time.
For the first Face collapse, husk crumbling, just was for the first time since he was a child, Stellan Geos was afraid.
Oh. And then you hear, this is Rising Storm by Penguin House Audio.
Yeah.
I'm like, no! What? You can't end
What?
like that!
Like, what? How did you just end the book like that? Because right after I finished the book, I was like, since talking about this more, I've definitely liked the book a lot more. It may be my favorite canon book now. I still like Lost Stars a lot,
Yeah.
but I mean, they did us dirty.
Oh, absolutely.
How do they just leave it like that? Like we're in the middle of action. We're in the smack dab middle of this conflict. They go, okay, bye.
Killed.
Loading killed, and you guys are just here now. But what? How are they going to get off out of the Nile base? Because I don't know what's going to happen. They are basically like they're surrounded. I mean, are they? I don't know if they're like literally surrounded, but they are on the Nile base where everyone knows where they're at.
Yeah.
How are they going to get back up? I don't think the Togrutas are going to save them this time.
No, they're not. They're basically screwed.
Yeah. It's almost like these Jedi, it's I don't know if they're going to just kill them off.
Yeah.
But I don't think they will. I won't be surprised if one of them dies. I think one will die.
Yeah.
What are your predictions kind of going forward since we end on such a cliffhanger?
Yeah. Well, again, we know who's writing this third and final book. It's Claudia Gray. And Claudia Gray always needs to punch you right in the gut and just make you feel everything. And
yeah.
And like Malik said earlier in the chat, I swear to God, if this book ends with Belle getting hurt again, I'm gonna be crying because it's like this. It's just Belle has gone through so much in these two books, and it's like Claudia, I know you're thinking about doing it again, and if you do it again, I'm gonna again like. She did it with Lost Stars. She did it with Master and Apprentice. She did it with every book she's written. There's just one moment where she's just like, yeah, screw you.
I've cried one time while reading, and it was during the Battle of Jakku during Lost Stars.
Yeah.
I was crying, and there were tears dripping on my page. I will admit it. But if something bigger happens to Belle, that will be the second time. I will cry.
And again, speaking about the predictions in general, we know the title of the book. It's called The Fallen Star. What the hell does that mean?
What do you think that means? I think personally, because we talked about this a little bit earlier, off camera. I think it means Starlight Beacon's going to crash or something's going to happen because it has to. And I think Fallen Star just makes too much sense to it not be the Starlight Beacon crashing. What do you think?
I think when I first read it, I'm still sticking with my initial gut. I saw it as the star pupil of the Jedi Order of this era. So when I think about the star pupil of the Jedi Order, I go Avar, Stellan, and Belle. These
Elzar.
three.
About Elzar.
Elzar, I would say, is kind of like, no offense, the stepchild of the Jedi Order at the time.
Okay.
Like, they're helping him. They're trying to get him all the resources he can so he can get back to his normal life. But
yeah,
these three, I am terrified for. These three could go at any moment. And when that happens, it's going to be horrifying. It's just,
Yeah.
And again, I know I've had discussions with other people. Some people think it means dark side. I didn't see it as dark side. I see it as they're gonna die. One of these three characters are gonna die by the end of this book, and I don't know who it is. And when it happens, it's gonna be the biggest gut punch of the entire phase one.
Yeah.
So that's what I saw interpreted as.
Yeah, that's. I just think Starlight Beacon's gonna crash. Because we have to see it, and I think it. I don't know. I think that's kind of like a central figure in this phase.
Yeah.
So I think it would be honorable almost. Maybe not honorable is not the right word.
Yeah.
It would fit very well for the Starlight Beacon to get destroyed. But who knows? One of us will probably be right and one will probably be wrong.
Or maybe both of us are right.
Yeah, or someone dies and Starlight Beacon crashes, which would be crazy.
Yeah.
If you want to kind of close this out, I guess.
Honestly, I can't say the first one because we say it every week. Who are you? Where can we find you? Because like, if you're watching this podcast, you know where we are. We know where you can find. We say it every single week. Both our names on TikTok. Both our name. My name on YouTube. You're not on YouTube. This is your YouTube channel, basically.
Yeah. But we might as well do it anyways, though.
Yeah.
Hereth, who are you? Where can we find you?
Hereth Productions, TikTok and YouTube. Obviously, you can find me on YouTube here, and you can find me on YouTube on my main Hereth Productions account, even though it's been really inactive of late.
Yeah. And then I am CarTD2 on here. And for our viewers, we think we found our Friday video idea, right? With it's gonna be with some other creators, and what we're thinking is if you guys like this, I'm not sure exactly how many people stick around to like the exact end of the episode, but if you are, please let us know. We would love to hear input on this, but we think we're going to be doing a Minecraft Star Wars playthrough because there's an awesome thing on Minecraft where you can like go through hyperspace and go to different planets and learn a lot about the galaxy. And we think we might be doing a survival playthrough with creators like Legan from Pods One Podcast, Malik Ferguson from what's his podcast? Whoa, this is a podcast. What's it called?
I think that's what it is.
Malik Ferguson.
Yeah.
And maybe and then potentially some other ones, but I'm pretty sure those would be the main few, right?
Yeah, those will be the main
few. Missing anything?
I don't think we're missing anything on that level.
Yeah, and then we'll be streaming. And also, a little plug for us would be every Sunday, ourselves will be on Pods One Podcast playing D&D. And we have last week, I think it's posted, right? And we're going to start live streaming it. Yeah, I don't know because that's not our channel.
It's not my channel.
I know we are.
Next Sunday,
we are going to be there.
We're going to be on Pod One Podcast. I'm going to be on Pod One Podcast. I don't know if you are. For the final in Charge Trivia.
I will not be.
I'll be. I'm not competing. I'm just a hype man. I'm basically here to hype Luke up against Chaco because he's going to need everything he can get because Chaco is going to give him hell and back, and so I'm there basically to give him coaching and advice whenever he needs it.
Yep, it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be one hell of a match.
Yep. And if you want to send us off,
they fly now.
They fly now. Thank you all for watching. May the force be with you, for light and life.
We are all the Republic. Thank you.